Uh, it's pretty routine stuff, what I'm talking about. Anybody's been in 401ks and stuff, I already know most of it. So it's just routine, but I'm going over uh, some that doesn't have 401ks or, a brokerage account. So, if you work for a company that has a 401k plan, in most plans, you will have three options to invest in. And the first of those options is in stock mutual funds, usually broke down into large cap funds, medium cap funds, and small cap funds, and can be even more defined, such as growth stocks, value stock plans, or a blend of the two. Sometimes they will be concentrated in one segment of the market, such as financials, utilities, health and industries, telecommunication, and etc. You know, there's about 13 different, I don't want to say it, 13 different types of investment in specific industries. So there's about 13 of them. So. The second one is bond funds, broken down into investment grade bonds, that's AAA, to BBB, investment grade bond funds, or junk bond funds, which is BB to C, as Standard & Poor's bonds. Some types, and another one is usually they'll have some type of stable income fund. Usually it's a money market or something to that effect, which doesn't pay a whole lot. Some types of stable funds usually are money market funds. You can choose what you invest in, or you can have an investment company choose what you do. So if you're investing, especially in a 401k, you don't have to actually do the investing yourself. You can have like Fidelity, they'll do it for you. TD Ameritrade, Weber, there's a lot of them. They'll actually do your investment for you if you don't want to spend the time to do investments. So, and they're pretty good at it. They'll basically keep up with what the S&P usually makes. So they're in that neighborhood. With IRA accounts and regular brokerage accounts, you can choose where your money is invested. You will have an option of choosing mutual funds, ETFs, funds, closed-end mutual funds, stocks, bonds, CDs, from almost anywhere in the world, where you have an investor making decisions for you. But you have to pay for this. The amount can vary, and you pay whether you make money or lose money. So if you've got like Fidelity's investing for you, if you don't make any money, you're still going to have to pay. And Weber, TD Ameritrade, Edward Jones, the only one that you don't have to pay is Ken Fisher. Ken Fisher says, if I don't make you money, then you don't have to pay my fee. But if I make money, then you pay my fee. So, but you'll have to pay for it. It's not free. So if you have somebody investing for you, so that's something you always need to keep in mind. In your IRA, if your IRA is with a bank or a credit union, and most of them are limited CDs and maybe money market accounts, it's safe, but you're not going to make a whole lot of money in CDs or money market funds. So it's but it's safe. You'll make a little bit, probably about what inflation runs. So if you want to just keep your money safe, best place is banks and CDs. So, but you got to get into CDs. You can't just leave it in a savings account, because savings accounts are not going to keep up with inflation. So you need to. This is all investment, and this is not you know, you got your emergency fund that you got already built up. We're considering you've already got 1, 2, 3 months emergency fund built up. This is extra money that you actually invest is what I'm talking about. So, you know, you got to have your emergency fund, you got to have your budget, and then after you get all this, then you can start investing and actually make money with your money. That's the whole key. If you got money, you can make money. If you don't have no money, it's hard to make money. You got to work. You're not working for this money. In a way you are, and in a way you're not. If you do your own investments, you need to be aware of business cycles, which basically means whether we're in a bull market or a bear market. Stocks do well in bull markets, and we've been in a bull market about 10 years now. But in a bear market, you usually lose money, especially if you're in stocks and equities. So bonds, you shouldn't be making money. But this is an old bull market. Just to be truthful with you, it's a very old bull market, and it probably will not be going on too much longer, maybe another year or so. If you are a bond investor, the decision you make is whether the company will pay you interest and the principal back to you when due. It's an on-off. It's a yes or no if you're a bond investor. When you make your choice to buy a company's bonds, you got to make a decision: will they be able to pay my interest, and will they be able to pay my principal back when it's due? So that's a big decision. Either yes or no. You've got two choices: yes, it will, or no, it won't. If it's no, it won't, you shouldn't invest in it. That's the way bonds work. It's just a simple investment, yes or no. The big difference between stocks and bonds as far as safety is if a company goes bankrupt, a bondholder has the legal right to any money they have after the bankruptcy courts are through, but a stockholder has none. You can make more money with stocks, but as a safety factor, bonds are more safe, and if a company does go bankrupt, the average amount that you will get back is around 40% of what you invested. So it's not a total loss, but you're going to lose money if the company goes bankrupt, and they go bankrupt every day. So. Most people are not good investors. I'll just be truthful with you, they're not. As far as individual stocks are concerned, one way to overcome this problem is invest in mutual funds and or ETFs, which is exchange traded funds. The only thing that does is they're got many companies that they're investing in, and you get a wide diversification on it. So that's one of the safety nets that you can use with stocks is ETF funds and or mutual funds, which that's a safety net if you're a stock and equities investor. Also, and this is very, very important, always remember your Rule 72. The quicker you get started, the quicker you'll start making money. You can lose money, but it depends on how you're investing. If you're in CDs, then you're going to make money. off the Rule 72, and Rule 72 is interest rate divided into 72, and gives you a number of years that it takes to double your money. So it's very important to get started. You can't, the longer you wait, the less you can make. And it's, I advise young people to start immediately. You know, as soon as they get a job, start putting 6% into, if the company got 401k, put that 6% or 10%, whatever you can afford, into it. And if they don't, you got IRAs or regular brokerage account. The advantage of IRAs, you get, you're paying less taxes on your income. The advantage of a brokerage account, you don't have to wait your 59.5 to get it. Brokerage account, you can put in, take out as you please. You don't have to wait on it. But IRAs, Roths, if you draw out before you're 59.5 years old, you're going to pay a 10% penalty to the government plus income tax. And most time your income tax, you're looking at 12%. So you're paying 22% to draw out of your Roth or the IRA or 401k. There is hardships that you can get the money out without paying 10%. You're still going to pay 12% or more in taxes. So always keep that in mind. Regular brokerage account, walk down, move your stocks or your bonds into your cash account, get your money out. That's the advantage of brokerage account. But you will pay all your dividends and capital gains every year in a regular brokerage account. But the whole key of this segment is develop your budget, stick to it, develop your emergency fund, let it alone unless you really have an emergency. Then start your investing. The quicker you get started, the more chances you are to make money. So that's the whole key, and this is the whole key to the whole thing. Get started. Don't wait. I mean, develop it, and this way you can do well.
It don't matter if you got $10.
Yeah.
$10 all a person's got.
Yeah.
Put in a savings thing. Put it in there. Keep it in there. Let it go. Let it be.
Yeah.
Most places over at the bank, they won't talk to you for $10. They want at least $100 to start off.
Yeah, they do. Most places.
Yeah.
But if you get a check in the mail that you're not waiting, that you don't know it's coming, or whatever, a birthday money or whatever like that, save that money. Keep it till you get that $100. You will get $100. God is good. He will actually have that money coming your way.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I was surprised whenever I got some money the other day because I wasn't expecting it, but I needed it, and I said, God answered the prayer I didn't even ask for.
Exactly. He does
God
that
is
time.
on time God.
He is on time.
He keeps us from all sorts of problems, and God is an on time God. And I give him all the credit. I'm not smart enough to do everything, but he is. So he gives me directions, or he just takes care of the matter without me and even been involved. That's the way I like it. So God is an on time God. But remember, get started. Get your budget, get your emergency fund, then start investing. Quicker, the better. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Randy, very much. All right. Well, now we're going to change subjects for a little bit. I got to tell you, it is hard to imagine how on earth doctors could charge so much. Oh, my goodness. If you've ever tried to go to the doctor and ask them to give you a pill or something, you have to ask how much it is before you actually go through with it. My goodness, is there another kind I can have? Is there a generic brand, something like that? And now, what I want to do in this segment is I want to talk to you about healthcare insurance or health insurance and healthcare cost. Now, whenever we start talking about this, somebody will come up and they'll say, Pastor Kelly, they'll say, man, I just don't know, why is it in such a mess? You know, why do doctors charge so much? Why are hospital bills so much? You know, you break a leg, you go in, and you know, you're talking about thousands of dollars. And if you don't have insurance, or you have subpar insurance that's not very good, you got problems. See, a few years ago, we had two small children, and we went out and tried to buy from a well-established insurance company some health insurance for the four of us, so family of four, right? Okay, so I looked through the policy after they sent it, and I read through it just as carefully as I could, pulled out the most interesting parts of it, and I want to summarize what that big book said. It said pretty much, if you get sick, good luck, right? Because there wasn't going to be much money coming our way, you know? And that's just the way it feels when you try to deal with an insurance company. So why is it so much? So to illustrate this, what I want to do is I want to try to pull, how many of y'all have ever heard of Dr. Oz before on television? Okay, so he did this presentation some time ago, and I'm going to kind of lift a lot of the things that he said, maybe change some of the examples, but I want to try to give you an illustration of why we think that healthcare costs are so high. So now to get into this, you've got to pretend that you're going to the grocery store. Okay, go to the grocery store. So you walk into the grocery store, and here's usually what happens. You go down, unless you're a different kind of shopper, you go down one aisle and then another aisle and then another aisle, and you've got a list with you. And you look at the list and you say, well, you know, pork and beans, pizza, sugar, flour. You pick all of that stuff and you put it in, and you're trying to figure it up how much it's going to be. Try to figure it up in your head, and then you go to the front. Now, before you go to the front, if you go to yourself, you know, it looks like this is a little bit much, and man, those eggs seem kind of expensive. I think I could do without those eggs. Then you're likely to take those eggs you think you can't afford, you want them, but you can't afford, and you're going to put them back up on the shelf, and you're going to get something else. Or maybe you'll get a cheaper brand of eggs. And then you'll go up to the counter, and you will let the person at the checkout counter count up all your groceries, give you the total, and if it's more than you wanted to spend, you're either going to put stuff back, or you will say to yourself, I will never do that again. I'm going to start going to a different grocery store. I'm going to start buying generic. I'm going to start doing something like that. And do you know why? Because you've got sense. That's right. You know that you can't have everything that you want. You know that nothing is for free. And if you buy real expensive eggs, then you're going to have to cut back on something else. If you buy a whole lot of soda, then you're going to have to do without something maybe that you really need, like protein or vegetables or something like that. So that's the way the world works. Now, I want you to pretend for a second we're going to go into an imaginary world. Does it sound good? Okay, so we're going to pretend that your grocery store experience is altogether different, okay? Not like it is now. So let's pretend that we're going in the grocery store, we're together this day, and we're going up, and I'm explaining to you how this whole thing works. I tell you that there is a mighty food insurance company in our town, and this food insurance company has given you a plan. And I tell you that you can have all the groceries you want, anything you want, for only a $10 copay. Sound good? All right, only $10. You can have anything you want. All you have to do is pay your $10 when you get up there and make sure that you have your food insurance card, okay? So you kind of like the sound of this. You go through, and what you do is basically you load up with everything you want because it's only going to be $10. And then I tell you something that you have wanted to hear all of your life. I tell you that the people you work for, your employer, they're actually paying for the rest of the groceries. That's why it only costs you $10. And you go to yourself, man, that's awesome. Let's go. Okay, so you know that wherever you work, let's say you work at Walmart, or you work at Ken Tanner's Cabinet Company, or whatever it is, they're paying for most of your groceries. You just got the $10 copay. Okay, so you kind of feel like this is free, right? Or just $10. So you never want this to change. See, when I was a kid, in my 20s, I got my first job. And, usually I was just working for minimum wage. When I got my first job, I wasn't working for much more than minimum wage. But still, I found out that they offered this thing called health insurance. Okay, it was the 80s, so everybody's crazy back then. So they gave us this card, and they said you could go to the doctor, and it's like a ridiculously small copay, and you just pay the doctor, and pretty much anything that's wrong with you, you can go get it fixed at the doctor's office. And that was so cool because $10 wasn't that much. And number two, I was young, so I didn't have to go to the doctor. I just didn't get sick. It was an awesome deal. So I want you to pretend that that's the way that your grocery store experience works. $10, you can buy anything you want. Okay, so I want you to imagine that no matter what you buy, no matter whether you buy a little the next month, a whole lot the month after that, you buy 3 or 4 carts full the month after that, it's always going to be $10 copay no matter what. Okay, now, how many of y'all think you would like for that to go on forever?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it will go on forever?
No.
Probably not. Because the cost of those groceries is probably going to be more than $10 and what your employer pays. Okay? So someday somebody is going to have to pay the piper. In other words, nothing is free, and someday somebody is going to have to hit the remainder of what is needed to pay for all those food products. Okay? All right. So what you discover when you go through these months of experience of shopping for $10 copay is all the prices disappear from the cans. Okay? All the meat. Nothing has a price on it. Okay? You don't see any price. There's no need to shop. You don't have to go generic. You don't have to put anything back, because nothing has a price on it. And then there's no brand names. So everything is the same. Okay, there's no like I'm trying to think of a real cool brand name.
Mayfield?
Okay, there's no Mayfield. All right, we're Milk, right? Okay, so there's no Mayfield. So everything looks the same. Plus, watch this. There's a guy in a white coat that works at the grocery store, and he comes out and he tells you what to buy. And we call him your personal shopper. Yeah, he tells you, okay, you look pretty hungry, so this is what I think you need. You need 3 packages of this and 5 packages of that, and I think that'll treat your hunger just fine. Okay, and you're going, well, this guy's got the white coat on. Hey, I'm going to let him do it. Hey, what do you say? Doctor, let's just fill it up. Shopper, let's just fill it up. Let's put anything we want inside this cart. It will be fine. Okay, now there's a problem, though, because at the end of the month, you get this statement. It's not a bill, it's a statement that explains all about your food cost, okay? And you discover that what you actually spend is more than what was contributed. And you say to yourself, boy, that's a sweet deal for me, but I wonder who's going to pay for that. And you just kind of hope by magic that it all works out someday, or we'll elect somebody that'll take care of all that. We really won't have to worry about it. So we just let it go. But we discover something. Our copay starts to go up. Mm-hmm. Instead of $10 in a couple of years, it's $25 a month. And we say to ourselves, $25, I'm getting close to 30, that's no problem. I'd have to go, a little more likely to break a bone, sprain something, so I have to go. So I can live with that, be fine. But still, nobody really tries to address the root cause of the problem. Nobody tries to balance the books. So here's what happens next. Okay, so you used to look for the best deals when you went to shop for groceries. You used to check all the prices. You used to see if you could get some things generic, and you used to put things back. But you don't do that anymore, and you tell yourself you don't have to do that anymore because you're an American. Okay? And Americans don't do that. We just don't have to do that. So because we don't shop, and because we kind of just take the word of whoever, and we don't compare prices, we just let it go. And so the problem continues to build. Now, on top of all this, if you're running the grocery store, you say to yourself, man, business is booming. Look at all these people coming in here looking for all this regular kind of food. You know what we need to do? He tells his guys that help him run the store, we need to go out for some real exotic food, real expensive food. We're going to go get that, and maybe some of our customers will like to buy that instead. They'll spend some of their food insurance money on that. So they go out and they buy organic, and they buy low fat, and they buy no sugar, and they buy no carbs, and they buy no calories, and whatever it is that they find, and they stock all the shelves on that, and we don't know any difference because nothing has prices on it. So we just start reaching for all of that, and we keep putting it in the cart because we don't know any different. Because we don't really have a chance, we don't have an opportunity to shop, to compare prices, to price cut. Okay, so the grocery store starts building and expanding and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the prices just go through the roof because they pile all of this exotic stuff onto the regular stuff, all of the name brand stuff on top of the regular stuff, but we don't know what's name brand and what's not. We just have no idea. And the guy in the white coat comes out and he's just, for all we know, he's suggesting that we buy the most expensive all the time. And so we're saying to ourselves, man, this is really tough. And every grocery store in town does the same thing because all of their customers too don't want to be hungry. You know, they want to have the very best, and they don't get a chance to shop. And so everybody just feeds this monster until the prices get higher and higher and higher. Okay, now we need to talk about one more thing before we come to a stop and try to come up with some conclusions. Okay, we need to talk about the people that don't have any food insurance. Okay, so I want you to picture that in the town there are these very nice people. They're not bad people. They just, have not been given a fair shake. All right, got some disadvantages going for them. So they don't have any food insurance. And they just say to themselves, man, I guess I'll just be hungry, And if I just get to the place I can't eat anymore, that's just the way it is. I'll try to borrow something from Fred next door. And so they just let it go. But the mayor of that town says, we can't have hungry people. And that's awful. People laying out in the street being hungry, we can't have that. So the mayor says, I'm going to pass a law. And the city council gets behind him. I'm going to pass a law that all of these people with no food insurance, we're going to make it possible for them to get food insurance. Okay? And so we're going to, now some of them have these pre-existing conditions and they're really, really hungry. They haven't eaten in weeks. So they're going to need 2 or 3 carts of food. And because they don't have a lot of money, we're going to have to spread the cost out over everybody. Well, the people that already have been in this plan for a while, they're going, wait, I don't know about that. But which is better, for them to pay a little extra or for these people to be hungry? And man, they just have this political disagreement with it over and over. They vote in one group and then they vote them out. Then they vote in another group that contradicts the first group, and then they turn that group out. And people just don't know what's happening. They just don't understand it. And the folks that don't have any food insurance, they just feel caught in the middle, almost like they don't know whether they, even deserve food insurance. And everybody gets in this big fight, and everybody gets in this big rigmarole because a lot of these folks that don't have food insurance have got a real problem that nobody can solve. Okay? All right, now on top of that, there is a shortfall because the prices have now gotten so high and there still are some people that can't eat. So now our town has to decide what we're going to do. The prices are so high, people can't live. It's like they can't afford to get well. They sure can't afford to get sick. But still, we got people that aren't covered. What are we going to do? Right now, I want you to think for a second. Now, pretend that food insurance that I've been talking about is really health insurance. And pretend for a second that the people that I talked about a few minutes ago that didn't have food insurance really didn't have health insurance. And you know how mad people get, especially during political seasons when they start going after all of this and politicians start going after each other and blaming each other. But just think that this may not just be politicians. It may just be the fact that we are caught in a spiral and we don't know how to make it stop. The prices keep getting so high and so high that people like you and me, hey, listen, they may be fine, but the people like you and me, we got to pick up the pieces. What are we going to do? Okay, so now that we know, or at least I think we know, kind of why prices keep going up, and still we got a problem, and still we got political disagreements, and still we got political fights, we have to stop and ask ourselves, but what are we going to do? Okay, we're a long way from Nashville, we're a long way from Chattanooga, we're a long way from Washington, D.C., So what are we going to do? Okay, so now what I'm about to say almost may sound like I'm getting into politics, and I'm like the most apolitical pastor you've ever met. I'm interested in Jesus, interested in the gospel. You have your politics. That's just great. I think that's fine. You need to go for it. I'm just going to try to stay with the people and with what their needs are, and I'll let you sort all that out. And I'll vote the way I vote, and you vote the way you vote, and just pray about it before you do it. That's the main thing. And let's talk about where health insurance is right now. Now, several years ago, a lot of you know, I think it's 2010, 2011, so almost 10 years ago, there was this sweeping change to health insurance, okay? And there was a group of politicians that pulled out this new health care plan that was, the intent was supposed to be, and I'm going to keep this real simple, lots of holes you can poke at this thing, try to keep it real simple, but the intent was supposed to be to cover more people. So what they said that they would do in the Affordable Care Act is that they would set up this thing where they would try to get prices low so more people could purchase insurance. And so now the first way they tried to do this was to expand Medicaid, which was intended to be an insurance program for people that didn't have a lot of money. So they were going to try to make that bigger so it would cover more people and more people would have health insurance. On top of that, that wasn't the only thing. They were going to try to create these state exchanges or a state marketplace. And every state was supposed to be able to manage their health insurance the way they saw fit, okay? So Washington came in and really tried to, tell them this is the way we're going to do it. A lot of the states opted out and said, no, we're not going to do it that way. That's too much power with the federal government, okay? That's one of those things you're going to decide, but it's too much power for the federal government, so we're not going to do that. Tennessee was one of those states that didn't want to do it. We didn't want to expand Medicaid. We weren't crazy about the exchanges. What we discovered between 2011 and 2016, excuse me, is basically that the exchanges, the state marketplaces, which was where people could go in and try to purchase insurance among private insurance companies, like Blue Cross, Aetna, whoever. You would try to go in and buy those, and those people could not discriminate against you if you had a pre-existing condition, okay? That was from the federal government. The other thing was that you could have your kids covered on your insurance policy until they were 26 years old, okay? Now, some of that may seem like a good idea, maybe not, whatever, but anyway, how well did those markets work, those state markets? Not great. What we discovered is this, watch, that younger people who, like we said a few minutes ago, like I was, really don't need to get sick, just starting out, don't think they can afford health insurance company, don't want to pay. And they really, as a group, don't want to have to buy. And this was the thing, the federal government said, you have to buy health insurance, and they didn't want to do that. Hey, we're just starting out, we barely have got enough money to survive. We don't want to have to buy a health insurance company, but health insurance coverage from a company. But if they didn't do that, listen, if they didn't do that, then middle-aged people, older people, we couldn't control the cost. You had to bring those younger people in to get the prices down, okay? So because of all of that, because of all of that, the marketplaces started really having trouble. And the prices were higher than what the federal government thought they were going to be, okay? Then we had another election in 2016. And the political group that came in, or like the political party that was kind of controlling the discussion, did not like the individual mandate and did not like the idea of the federal government having lots of power over the insurance company. So a lot of the parts of the Affordable Care Act, they began to just, it hasn't disappeared, but it's kind of in limbo. There are parts of it that are there and parts that are not. Okay, so why did I tell you all of this? Well, I started off with a kind of a fantasy description of what it's like to buy health insurance and why the costs keep going up. Then I talked to you for just a second about the federal government and the state government and where we've been the last 15 years in trying to offer health insurance to people. Now I got to try to bring it home so that everybody understands why I've done all of this, okay? Somebody asked me the question, where do you think health insurance is going and health costs are going for me and my kids? And the answer is, I don't know. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. Now, actually, that's the bottom line. I really don't know. And part of this is because this has kind of gotten out of side. Oh, forgive me for saying this. If you think this is political, I don't mean for it to be, but in a way, it seems like it's gotten outside of just how do we solve the problem, and it's the politics and the campaigning and the electioneering have really kind of got into this, and now it's almost like if one group's for it, the other group's against it. Remember that old joke about the church council when I came up and said, I told the story about this one guy that was on the council, and he said, "Pastor, I can't come to that meeting tomorrow night, but you know how I vote. Whatever they're for, I'm again. Whatever they're again, I'm for." And that's kind of the way Washington works, okay? So if one group comes up with it, well, we can't be for that. If the other group comes up for it, we can't be for that. So it's just, they're just trying to basically limp to, seems to me, trying to limp to the next election so they can win. But that doesn't help you when you can't afford to go to the doctor, okay? So what we're saying is this: I don't know where healthcare costs are going. I don't know. Okay? So instead, here's how we need to think. You and I need to become shoppers. Okay? And what that means is when you get a statement from the doctor, every dollar that they say you owe, it would be nice if you knew what that was for. And you know what it's like if you've got a big doctor's bill and you get all this stuff and you look at all these things and it's like it's written in Latin. You have no idea what this is. What's a tactometer? Why does it need to be in my foot? I don't know why. So you look at all this stuff and you ask yourself, well, I don't know what this is, but I got to pay it. Okay? Well, what you got to do is call them up and say, what is this? What we have discovered in our lifetime is that sometimes, number one, doctors are not perfect and hospitals really aren't. Okay? Nice people, but they're not perfect. They may charge you 3 or 4 times for the same thing. And they may charge you 1,000 times more than what that thing is worth. Your prescriptions. Doctor, do I really need this? Doctor, what happens if I don't take this? Could I find a substitute? Could I find something cheaper? Had high blood pressure once and went to the doctor and he gave me this prescription. I'd have to sell my house to buy all this. And I said, well, I don't think I can do this. Oh, well, we'll get it cheaper for you. Well, why don't you do that to start with? Okay, so the point is that doctors are not in it to just save you money, right?
Doctors get a kickback
They
on
do.
every
Well, you're
prescription,
preaching now. All right.
on every prescription.
All right. So you got to go for the jugular here because remember, you're the customer. You don't have to please the doctor. Okay? He needs to please you, or at least be competent for you. All right? So one of the things you want to make sure that you are is a shopper. Okay? So if the hospital or the doctor or somebody comes and says, you know what you need? You need really, and how much would that be? Okay? So the doctor comes to me and said, you need a certain procedure. Well, doctor, I really need to pay this off before I do this. If it's not life-threatening, consider it. Okay? All right. Because the only person that is going to protect your pocket, your wallet, is you. So you got to be a shopper. Here's the last part that I want to say. It would be great if we could have a revolution. I feel really bad saying this because I've got this arm, all tied up like I'm, strapped to a gurney or something. But let me just kind of say this because I believe it, even though I've not been able to do it lately. It would be great if you and I could really get into preventative health care. Okay? So what that means is what's really important beyond what's as important as am I going to the doctor is how's my diet, how's my exercise, how's my blood pressure, and am I trying to take control of it? Because, not always, but one of the ways, the most reliable ways that you will keep yourself out of the doctor's office and not have to deal with this stuff nearly as much is to get healthy ahead of your sicknesses. Yeah. So that's walking, that's lifting weights, that's, whatever it is that you can do to see about yourself, to keep your flexibility up if you're over the age of 40, to make sure that you are able to get around like you did once. When I was about 30 years old, I had this friend come down and he was going to start a Christian karate association for us. So I called the teens and youth group, and we all got together on a Saturday morning. He showed us how to do all these bends, Christian, get ready to do the whole, Christian defense thing. And so what I discovered at 30 years old is I was so stiff I couldn't move. Man, he'd say, well, bend like this way, and my bones won't go that way. Right? So what we discover is even as early as 30 years old, you really start to stiffen up in a big way. So getting ahead of that, finding a way to stay flexible, to keep your lungs cleared out, to make sure that you have enough water, you're hydrated enough, to make sure that your blood pressure stays under control. If the day comes that you have to get on high blood pressure medication, you want to make sure that you are not going into foreclosure, make sure you're not going into debt to buy the medicine. Want to make sure that you do everything you can to control your healthcare costs. Remember, the big takeaway from this is your best defense when it comes to healthcare costs is you. Question everything. Be a shopper. Okay? All right. So now that was my presentation pretty much. Let me see what time we have, and let's open up the floor for questions about investment, about insurance. Anybody tonight?
Well, back in 2004, when I had to have my hip replaced, I fell down the stairs. I just turned around and I went, boom.
Wow.
I didn't have no feeling in that leg. So I had my boyfriend to call, go next door to have him call 911 because he couldn't hear too well.
Oh.
He was trying to get me up.
Uh-huh.
I said, I don't have no feeling in that leg and I ain't gonna try to get up. And just call the ambulance and I'll go to the hospital. Well, I had got mail from Hartridge. If you have Medicare and a supplement, you won't owe anything. I was out there 4 weeks. I had 2 surgeries on the same hip. 1 week that I was out there, $44,000.
Wow. That wasn't a bargain, was it?
When I had my open heart surgery done, in 2014, 14. When I finally got out of the hospital and out of the sessions and all, and I got my bill, just my hospital bill, I was out there from Friday till Wednesday. They gave me 10 sessions on Wednesday. Over $22,000. Over. No, $222,000. That's what I meant to say. That's where I'm getting all of it all mixed up. For those 5 days that I was out at the hospital.
Mhm.
But, and I was in intensive care for about 2 days. That's 2.5 days. And then they shipped me out of there. And I got real good care and all, but I thought that was awfully expensive.
Yeah, I read today that the average cost of open heart was $75,000. That seems low to me. Can you imagine? I said to myself, I'd rather not have one.
Well, I wasn't, I didn't think I was gonna have to have it either, because my regular heart doctor said, would you go and see another heart doctor if I recommended you to see him? I said, well, he said, do I really need to? He said, well, I think you do. I said, well, if you think I need to go, I said, I'll go. So within 2 weeks or less, I went to see this other doctor. And, well, I had my brother and my sister-in-law in power with me. And he said, who's the patient? And I said, I am. Up in the back, in the seat where he couldn't see me. He said, I'm not supposed to talk to these people here. I need to talk to you. I said, you can speak to all of us because we are her powers of attorney on her health. He didn't much like it, but he finally told. And he said that he wanted me to see a heart surgeon. I said, well, here we go again. So I went to see the heart doctor, or the heart surgeon, on Wednesday or Tuesday, and he was talking about having me in the hospital the next day. Or at least that's the way I took it. He was talking. I said, hey, wait just a doggone minute now. You're getting rid of me before I'm ready to go. So he had it set up for the following Friday, so that gave me a little bit of time. And he did a real good job. I mean, I got no complaints, but I thought the bill was extremely way out of proportion, I thought.
It's always more than you think it is. Yeah.
So, but
But you're in good health, you're in good health.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
But with Partridge, the 4 weeks that I was out, like I say, just 1 week was $44,000. So can you imagine that for 4 weeks?
Oh, yeah.
No, I can't. Well, does anybody have any questions about insurance?
I have a few comments about insurance, especially in the prescription area.
Okay.
Europeans pay about a third less than what Americans do, and for same prescription. They're gorging Americans, so they're actually gorging Americans, and it can be stopped. I mean, there's no point in them charging us more than what they charge anybody else. That's also in the insurance plans also, I'm sure, that they're charging more, and the hospitals are charging more, and it's not right. Politicians need to stop their bickering and get in line and stop this stuff, and they can do it. It just blows my mind. I have to pay a third more for my prescription than what a European does.
It's more than a third.
And if in some of the underprivileged countries, I think it's much even less than that. So, we're having to pay an extraordinary amount, which it's not right. They need to stop it. And there's a lot of different plans out there, especially if you're 65 and over. You can actually not pay any premiums if you're 65 and over.
Audrey's on one, but she don't pay anything now for medicines, which is great.
But, Ellen and I do not pay any premiums whatsoever. We have a $10 copay, and then, of course, if it runs, we have a deductible we have to meet every year. But we do not pay premiums, like you pay monthly charge up bills, we don't pay it. And anybody over 65 can get that if they want it.
You need that
Almost.
thing, you know, I'm trying to find out about that,
So.
because I'm over 65.
You pay?
Yeah, I pay for my
Yeah.
supplement.
There's a lot of different insurance companies, and you really need to shop around. Younger folks, Thomas, what did you said that you had to pay on your premium now?
$25 every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
That's not that bad. Really good. Real good at your age.
And
really
of course,
good.
TVA is a real good company to work
Oh, yeah.
for, so, it's, some of the other ones, you're paying up to a couple $100 a month, just premium to have insurance.
A lot of you guys know that about 2009, I think, a lot of employers were starting to strip health insurance out of the benefits. It was just a nightmare for young people because you can get sick when you're young, and then if you have to come in and take an entry-level job in your 30s and 40s with a family with no health insurance, well then, if you get sick, then you're talking about foreclosure, bankruptcy, all kinds of bad things. So it is something to be concerned about. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
You had
why
comments.
you develop your emergency funds. That's why you learn to invest money, to make money. You don't have, that way you're not gonna have to go bankrupt. If you do get a $100,000 bill, you're not gonna have to go bankrupt to pay it. So that's the whole key. If you have money, then you're not so dependent upon the government. You're not dependent upon your family. You can be self-dependent, always dependent upon God.
Okay, so let's see if we can do a review now, all right? So take everything that we covered over the last several months And there are gonna be no hard questions here, but we're gonna go back and ask you to put some things together. So let's say that I have very little money right now and I don't have a financial plan. What would you say is the first thing I need to have, or the first thing I need to develop? Budget. Y'all knew that, right? You just didn't want to say it. You didn't want to take it away from Randy? Okay, all right. All right, that's right. The first thing you want is a budget. Okay, so what is a budget? Well, it's planning where your money's going to go so that your money doesn't tell you where you're going to go. And you're going to find a place for every dollar. So you know about how much you're going to spend on housing, about how much your food costs, and if your spending starts to get out of control, you'll be able to see it. It'll shock you or surprise you. Okay. So what about after a budget? What do I need after that? True or false? I need to get into investing. Okay, what should I do instead? Emergency fund. All right, very good. All right, emergency fund. And the emergency fund is in place so that you can take on any unexpected debts. Okay, this is not something that makes you money. It's money that just sits still and it's there for you in case of an emergency. How much of an emergency fund do you need? Well, it depends on how much money you need, and then it depends on how long you think your emergency might go. Randy, I think, said 3 months. I was at the other extreme at about a year. So, something that at least gives you an idea, somewhere, either one of those figures or something in between. Okay. But some people will even say 2 years, but that's a little excessive. But you don't want to think about a 10-year emergency fund. No, that's not what an emergency fund is. You just want to think about something that is a year or less, probably several months, of your essential, stripped down essentials.
I think one of the first things a person needs to do is every penny that you spend, not count bills, just or food that you go and buy, your groceries. But that too, write down everything that you do. It's like you go to the store or the restaurant out of the regular things, your bills things. Just write down if you get a drink, a Coca-Cola, a cake, ice cream, anything like that. Write it down. And at the end of the week, you can see how much money. Restaurant, anything, you can see how much money you spent that really didn't have to be spent on. Because you can buy a box of cakes or a thing of Cokes or whatever you want and get them from your house. You don't have to get them out on the road when you're just dropping to grab something. It costs a lot of money to get that stuff like that. Coke, when you get it just one Coke, it's like $2. Most of the time, it's right around $2. Unless you want one of those great big 90-something cent, I think.
Yeah.
Or 25, yeah. But you can save a lot of money just by doing that. We did that one time. Well, it was a lot, wasn't it? We spent a lot of money doing that by the week.
Remember that what we said, that there were some ways, if you didn't have an emergency fund, that you could go about getting an emergency fund together, selling things, getting an extra job, taking on tutoring for one of your hobbies. Just try to save $100 and then try to save $200, then $500, and then build your emergency fund that way. Remember that if you don't have an emergency fund, you need to think of yourself as in a state of emergency because you need one. Okay? Now, after that, we need to get rid of something, don't we? We need to get rid of something really bad. What do we need to get rid of?
Credit cards.
Yes.
That's true. I was going for something bigger.
Yeah.
Something bigger. Credit cards are a part of what? Debt, right?
Your biggest bill. Your biggest bill.
You got to. In fact, some people might even want to go after their debt before their emergency fund. But in any case, you got to get those debts down. And one of the highest interest rates, which is the most expensive debt, are credit cards. Okay, so you want to get rid of those. If you have to buy something on time, just make sure you really have to. try to look for some options like, can you borrow it? Can you get 0% interest on some kind of account and pay it off in a year? Something like that. But yes, get rid of debt. And then after that, investing. That's right. All right. Well, it has been our pleasure to serve you these 2 months. Thank you so much. I'm sure Randy would like to thank you as well for being a part of this.
Thank you.
Remember, you can get any of these sessions. All of them are videoed, and we'll be glad to send you a link so you can view them online. And let me just mention one more thing. Last week's session and this week's session, Randy's presentation was filled with information, okay? So what I would recommend that you do is that you watch that maybe even 3 or 4 times and get a pen and paper and write down some of the things he's talking about, like Roth IRA, and that's just one that comes to mind, all the different instruments he's talking about. And then if you're not sure what that is and it's not clear from the video, come and ask him or talk to me about it, and we'll talk to you about it, because we don't want to just, throw a bunch of lingo at you, a lot of jargon at you. We make sure you know what those things are. But those links are available online. If you don't have an email address or something, let me know, and we'll try to find a way to get it to you.
And if anybody needs help in any of this stuff, I'm available. I'll help what I can, and also the pastor will be available to help whatever he can. And the only dumb question is the question not asked. And always remember, if you don't know where your money's spent, how can you control it?
That's right. All right. Let's pray for your finances. Can we pray for your money? All right. Lord, I pray, bless the money of everybody in this group tonight. Oh, great God, you've been faithful enough to give us energy to go out and work hard and work long for it, work a lot of years for it. Now we pray for the wisdom in how to spend it and how to take care of ourselves. I know, Lord, that all of us will leave this world without any money. So what we do with it, this life is the only place that we've got to really show stewardship. So help us, Lord Jesus, to be able to invest ourselves, to learn and to grow, and to take care of ourselves. I pray, help us to hold to the statements and the wisdom of Scripture, that, Lord, you will order our steps and you will cause us to watch our days, order our days, number our days. I pray, help us, Lord Jesus, to do that and to be faithful in all things. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen.